Hey folks, welcome back to Set Apart Homestead. This is Travis. And see my flooded spring back here? We've had so much rain and flooding, my spring is just, well, it looks like a nasty old pond. But there is a spring there. It's just gotten flooded. Anyways, I hope the wind noise isn't too bad. This little mic that I use is pretty good for that. So we'll see how it works. I wanted to pick up kind of where I left off yesterday, or my previous video, and that is about talking about gray man, and being, you know, that kind of incognito, not drawing attention to yourself, those types of things, and of course also situational awareness. But I mostly focused on it from a standpoint of the here and now, about not drawing attention to yourself now. Let's talk about what to do after SHTF. Now, I'm going to talk about this from the standpoint that SHTF was big. It's, you know, our worst fears type of SHTF. It's nationwide, probably even global. Government may or may not exist, and if it does, it's not really big enough to like keep the law and order, especially out in your more rural areas and small towns. Their focus right now is, in this situation, is the big cities, because the apocalypse pretty much just happened, and they're even trying to pull themselves together, and the best they can do is kind of offer control in the big cities. So that's kind of the scenario I'm thinking of today. In that situation, being a gray man is more important than anything. It's more important than it is now to blend in, to not draw attention to yourself. But there's certain ways that you're going to have to do that that's a little different than now. You have to realize that in a situation like that I'm talking about, it doesn't take very long for people to kind of get crazy, get desperate. Look at Venezuela, what's going on in Venezuela. After just a week without power, you know, they estimate about 1,000 people died, and people are going crazy in the streets because they have no food, no water, nothing. So that's kind of the scenario we're talking about. In that scenario, you need to blend in with the impoverished, starving, helpless people. You need to kind of blend in and go away. Now, hopefully, in a scenario like this, you planned enough ahead of time that you're not really around a whole lot of people. Because I can tell you right now, it's not like it is in the movies. If you're in a big city and something like this happens, or even just in any city where there's enough people around, you're going to be worse off. The less crowds of people that you are around, the better. That is something that historically has been proven true when bad things happen. Staying away from the masses and the crazy people. So, but let's say that maybe you haven't. Maybe you're trying to get to your location. Or you have to stay just because of whatever reasons. You didn't plan right, you didn't have enough, you know, have a place to go. Or you are living rurally, but there's still people around you. You know, you're not remote. You're not secluded and remote, but you are rural living. In all those situations, you need to blend in, at least for a while, until you can get... I'm going to try to sit down here. All right, there we go. You need to blend in for a while. Not draw attention to yourself, not look like you're, hey, that guy was prepared. He's got stuff. Some of the things that you're going to have to do is the way you dress. You know, as people, after a few days, people are going to start getting smelly. Their clothes are going to get tore up, wore out. Maybe they have no change of clothes at all. They have no way to wear or to clean their clothes. As people are running around, their clothes are going to get tore up and ratty-tatty kind of looking pretty quickly. They're going to be dirty looking. You need to kind of look that way for a while, at least until you can either get to where you need to go, or you know, enough time pass that the initial die-off happens, which is another subject for another day. You need to look hungry. I would even if you've got enough food. Let's say you planned really well and you've got boatloads of food. You got 2 or 3 years supply of food for your family. That first 3 to 6 months, you need to eat very little. Enough to keep you going, but hopefully will lose weight. Because if everyone around you, after a couple of weeks, is starting to look really skinny, their faces are starting to sink in, they're losing weight because they're not eating enough, and that you're over here fat and happy, it's going to be pretty obvious. Hey, that dude's got a hoard of food somewhere. We need to go check it out. So I would encourage you, and it may be tough for your whole family to get on board with this when it happens, but I would think after some type of apocalyptic event happens, people are going to be more serious. Even your own family, they're going to, the shock. They know they got to do something to protect themselves. So, cut back on your eating. I'm not saying starve yourself, but make sure you're losing weight. You're probably going to lose weight anyways, just because of maybe more activity. Even if you're just inside a lot, especially if it's the summertime, you're probably going to sweat more. You're not going to have air conditioning, things like that. So you're probably going to lose weight anyways, but make sure that you are. Fast if you need to. It's going to conserve your food supply, so there is a benefit there. But the main thing is you're not drawing attention to yourself because, man, it's been a month after the SHTF and Bob down the street's just as fat as he ever was. And look at all us, we're starving to death. What's he got that we don't have? That kind of thing. If you're in a situation, again, where you're around people, sure, you want to have things to defend yourself, but that is not the time to walk around looking like Rambo. Keep everything you have concealed. Maybe concealed carry isn't something that you do now or that you really focus on. A lot of states have open carry, and out here where I live, a lot of people open carry. It's just, that's just how it is. You go to the store, you go to Walmart, you go to a restaurant, you always see someone open carry. You probably don't want to open carry. You may say, yeah, but I want to let them know that I've got something. Yeah, but those people out there at that time, after SHTF, they're going to be desperate. It's not like now where you might have to fight off 1 or 2 street thugs. You might have to fight off the whole neighborhood if they're hungry enough. And I don't care what kind of training you have and what kind of guns you have, you cannot fight off your entire neighborhood. So, keep a low key with that. Don't let it be known that you're packing heat. Yeah, you need to get away from people. That's going to be, to me, in my mind, always a priority. And it's not just the people, but you also need to do these things because of the government. If there's any government left, which this is a subject for another video. Most situations, even really bad ones, I think there's still going to be government there. Maybe not local, and it may be a while before the federal government reaches you, especially if you live in small towns or rural. But in most every bad situation you could think of, there's still going to be the government. They plan for these things quite well. Why do you think they pay on paper, $100,000 for a toilet? It's because the rest of the money is being spent on preparing themselves to always be there if something happens. So it would take a really major, global catastrophic event, I feel, to completely knock government to its knees. So they're always going to be there, but you also want to protect yourself from them. Because if anything big happens, it's going to be an open door for them to come in and start confiscations, start rounding up people, start what they would call helping people, enacting more global policies. I think personally, and I know this is getting off into some conspiracy theories, but the way I believe, and according to the Bible, I believe it indicates this, that governments want one world government. They want that. And they know that the best way, and this was something that was mentioned in another video, War on Autonomy. I've suggested it already, but there's another promotion of it. He's a YouTuber. That they know that the best way to get that is through some big catastrophic event. It will bring people to their knees. It will cause them to beg for government to help them. So you want to stay in incognito. You want to be the gray man more than ever during that time, because you don't want government to know that, hey, he's got, you know, a whole semi-truckload of freeze-dried food in his basement. And he's got a bunch of guns and ammo and that sort of stuff, because they don't want that. They're going to come and they're going to take it. If they find out, any government that's left over after an SHTF, they find out about it, they're going to come and get it. And it may be your last stand. You may give it your all, but you're not going to win. That's just plain and simple. You're not going to win that battle. So, you know, really work on your gray man thing. I mean, you could even go as far as to prep to have clothes that are already all tattered and kind of ratty looking. Keep them saved away. And like I said, you certainly want to do this for the first few weeks, 3 months maybe even 6 months. It all depends on what's going on. Use your own good judgment for that one. But until those first, you know, kind of die-offs happen, you want to look like you're dying too. You want to look pitiful, unprepared, starving, filthy, dirty, bruised and battered, poor and everything. Because here's the thing. While many of you may, by today's standards, be considered poor, you know, you don't drive around in Rolls Royces, you don't have 25,000 square foot homes. After an SHTF, you can be the poorest Joe there is, but if you've got a big food supply and guns and ammo, medical supplies, you're now considered a billionaire. You are a wealthy person. So when bad things happen like that, they come after the wealthy because they believe that the wealthy have stockpiles. And even though you may be poor right now, if it's discovered afterwards that you have stockpiles, you're on that wealthy list too, because to them, that is wealth at that point. And I think as we're seeing now in Venezuela and we have seen in other situations, when people truly get to that starving, desperate point, they will do anything to keep from starving, to keep from you know, dying of dehydration, those types of things. So you've got to stay kind of hidden. I would advise, if you don't live out like I do, if you don't live out in the middle of nowhere, which I would encourage you to try to do that, and if not, at least have a place like that. But if you live around people, whether it's outside of town, in a neighborhood, or right in the middle of town, if anything happens, you want to stay as quiet and unnoticed as possible. Because I'm telling you, after a few days, when people start getting hungry and thirsty, and they know that you've got food, and they find out, man, that dude's got a 3-year food supply. He's hoarding food. Well, that 3-year food supply could feed a bunch of us for a few days. And then you all starve after that. But they don't care about that. They just want to take care of those hunger pains right now. So remember the gray man. It's good practice to do it now, because I think in most situations, even today, for most people, and these of course are general terms, it's a better way to be. There are situations that that's not true. I get it. But for most people, it is. But after SHTF, I'm telling you, you need to be a gray man. You need to blend in, not draw any attention to yourself. Get dirty, look dirty, don't bathe, try not to eat a whole lot, lose weight, wear nasty tattered clothes, and stay indoors and hidden until you can get away from everyone. And I feel that that's the best advice. I think from what we're seeing in today's world and in the past history of events, that that's probably going to be your best bet of survival. And along the way, try to get the heck out of Dodge without drawing much attention to yourself also. So, you know, don't be driving around your big old jacked up, you know, bug out vehicle after SHTF. You know, just look, you're not there to save the world. You know, save the ones that you care about and stuff, but you don't want to draw attention to yourself, because At that point, people will figure, whether there is a government or not, that it's, you know, a world without law and order. And, you know, they'll take you down quickly if there's enough of them, no matter what guns you have, to get your food. So, remember the gray man. It'll keep you alive after SHTF, especially if you're prepared. So, all right, folks. Thank you all for watching, and I'm going to head inside.